Welcome to the Thriving Outside the Box podcast. Join me, Dr. Kimberly Grocher, a licensed psychotherapist, executive coach, and yoga and mindfulness meditation teacher, as I shed light on the stories of leaders and entrepreneurs across industries who have not only dared to create their own path in their careers, businesses, and lives, but found a way to do it while thriving mentally, physically, and spiritually. I hope you walk away with the inspiration to do the same. And welcome to another episode of the Thriving Outside the Box podcast. I am your host, Dr. Kimberly Grocher, and I'm very excited to welcome you today to the first solo episode of this podcast. I've had so much fun creating the podcast thus far, trying to figure out this whole process. I like to say this process has been homemade or homegrown. While I have some knowledge of the technical side of podcasting and kind of producing content, it's still been a lot of experimenting because this is not what I do every day for a living, right? So there's still been quite a bit of figuring things out, but it also has been a great opportunity and exercise in letting go of perfectionism and the need for it to be perfect, whatever that means, and to really allow myself to go with the flow, focus on having fun, focus on the purpose, which is to share stories and inspire listeners to create the path that they want at this stage in their lives. And it's really important to me to emphasize the very real fact that we need examples. We need to hear other perspectives. We need to be exposed to options we may not even have known existed. And so I hope this has been helpful thus far on your own journey. And so this topic of having a healthy relationship with yourself is something that comes up in many of my sessions with my clients, but also in my friendships. It's very relevant to the climate that we're living in today, specifically in the US in 2025. And for me personally, it has become even more significant in this season of loss in my life. So when we are stressed out or going through challenging times, we often abandon the activities and rituals that honor our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health. Those are the first things to get pushed to the side. We live in a world that presents taking care of ourselves, taking care of our health as optional. And I think we are really starting to see with the increase in health issues, especially in the Black community at much younger ages, but also other communities as well, the impact that stress has on our bodies, has on our minds, has on our mortality. I think we are seeing that taking care of ourselves, honoring ourselves, really being attuned to ourselves is not optional if we're going to be living healthy, sustainable lives. And yes, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a meditation teacher, I'm a therapist, I'm a coach, all of those good things. But I don't believe that there's just one particular way to achieve wellness. There are many ways. And so it's important for us to find the way or the activity or the rituals that work for us, because life brings us so many things that are out of our control. We need to be as well as we can be, or at least well enough to meet these challenges. We need to be able to weather the storms as well as the sunshine. And so I wanted to use this time and this space to help you to think about your relationship with yourself differently. And I'm specifically focusing on this. I just talked about the importance of taking care of yourself. And a lot of times we attribute this to self-care, which has become a whole movement in the last decade, which is wonderful. It's important. But having a healthy relationship with yourself goes beyond self-care. Self-care is the manifestation of our relationship with ourselves. It's about how you treat yourself in so many different areas of your life. So I know there's a lot of content out there too about taking care or having a relationship with yourself. And that's wonderful. I had somebody tell me when I was sharing this topic, they were like, oh, that's such a therapist topic, right? And yes, it is, right? Because it does relate to your wellness. But But I wanted to add having a healthy relationship as just opposed to having a relationship with yourself. We know from looking at other relationships in our lives, you can have a relationship, but having a healthy relationship versus an unhealthy relationship are two very different things. And so we'll talk about the what, we'll talk about the why, and then I'll give you some insights into the how. So what does it mean to have a healthy relationship with yourself? It's really important to have a healthy relationship, again, as I said, to engage in consistent self-care. Many times we think about the activities like getting your hair done, getting your nails done, taking nice luxury vacations, treating yourself to nice meals or nice items, or, even taking time off as self-care, right? Or as you being good to yourself. And again, that's a piece of it. That's something that comes as a result of having a healthy relationship with yourself. So I want you to take a moment and imagine your relationship with yourself as if you were a separate person or entity. If you had a bird's eye view of your relationship with yourself on a day-to-day basis, what would you see? So if you can just take a moment and visualize yourself rising either above yourself or peeking around a corner in your home, in your workplace, and just kind of looking at how you treat yourself, what you allow, what you don't allow, what you allow into your space, who you allow into your space, what you don't allow into your space, what you engage in, what you push aside, who you push aside, what you make excuses for. And so to add to that, if you witness someone else treating you the way you treat yourself, what does that look like then? Right? So I like to use this example of, when you're dating, when you are in an intimate relationship with somebody else. And if you think about the self-care activities, right? The self-care activities being those things again, hair done, nails done, nice trips, nice dinners, nice expensive items or furnishings, If you look at those things and you're being given that in this intimate relationship, but then when you look deeper, you notice that there's a lot of negative talk constantly being talked down to. You're being deprived of basic needs within this relationship. You're being deprived of connection, of quality time, of healthy communication, right? Thinking about the things that you want or need in a relationship beyond just the material things. And so when you think about it from those terms, right, we often do this to ourselves. We often talk really negative to ourselves. We often deprive ourselves of some really basic needs, right? I always use the example, I'm sure a lot of other therapists can relate to this, not going to the bathroom when you need to. I'll hold it, I'll wait till this, I'll wait for that, and so many of us do that, trying to put our needs on hold so that we can just finish this thing, so that we can just tend to this person, so that we can just take care of that thing. And guess what? Things never stop. Life doesn't stop. People around us don't stop needing things. There's always going to be something else. But we tend to move as if I can just get everything else out the way, then I'll take care of me. And it doesn't end up happening. And so, yes, there are times in our lives when we need to adjust or adapt how we meet our needs, such as if you are a primary caregiver or you are parenting. But it's important to have this foundation with yourself, this relationship with yourself, so that you have something to adjust or accommodate. And adjusting and accommodating is very different than completely neglecting yourself. And sometimes we neglect ourselves because society rewards us for neglecting ourselves, especially if you are members of certain groups. Having this relationship with yourself involves really getting to know and accept yourself. And so when you really get to know, when you start to accept yourself, this also allows for perfection versus growth. Most of us deal with perfectionism. This is what it should be. This is how I should be. This is how things should be. This is what this should look like. This is what this shouldn't look like. This is what they said. This is what she said. This is what they expect. And that is not sustainable, especially when you use the word should. My clients always laugh because I talk a lot about shoulding on yourself, because should is the ultimate setup. It's never as it should be. And the bar just keeps being raised higher and higher. And also when we start to talk about should, I should, things should, this should, it indicates that something is wrong with you because it's not that way. So what I like to offer is using could instead of should. If you ask could, it allows you to investigate the situation versus right away kind of ridiculing or admonishing yourself. Could also allows you to get to know yourself, get to know your preferences, understanding where you are at any given point in time, and then deciding how to navigate. So a common example that comes up in my work with my clients is this idea of, oh, I got invited to this event or this outing and I should go. I should go. This is what's expected of me. This is the right thing. This is the nice thing. This is something they did for me. I need to reciprocate. What are people going to say if I decide not to show up? Whereas if you ask could, right? I could go to this event, but I really don't want to. And why is that? That allows for inquiry, right? So why is it that I don't want to go? I don't really feel comfortable in this space. I don't really feel safe here. I'm tired. I don't, this event is coming at a time after I've been working or I've been taking care of kids all day and I just want to rest. I just am tired and just am really not in a place where I know I'm going to have a good time or really be engaging. And so when you honor that, that changes the whole narrative for you, right? You get to say, instead of I should be this person, I should constantly be showing up. You get to really see, oh, I'm tired. Oh, I'm not comfortable here. Oh, this doesn't feel safe. So then you get to ask yourself, okay, so how do I want to navigate this? Maybe I take a nap and I decide I want to go because this is somebody that's important to me. And I know that this is an important event to them, but I was able to tend to my needs first. I was able to acknowledge where I am. And so because of that, I can find a way to go and feel good. Or you say, you know what? This doesn't work for me right now. This doesn't feel good for me. And that's enough reason to say no. It also helps with radical honesty with yourself. Oh, I just want to go back to that last point for a second, because I was listening to the Michelle Obama podcast, right, with her brother, Craig Robinson. And it's interesting because when Michelle Obama did not show up to former President Carter's funeral, my immediate thought was because of where she was seated, right? And also maybe she's at a point in her life where that's not what she wants to do. She doesn't want to go sit next to Trump. She doesn't want to act like things are okay when they're not, right? And I was surprised to learn, and again, I'm not an expert on Michelle. This is obviously very subjective, but she confirmed it in the podcast. And she said that a lot of people then went on to attack her relationship with former President Obama, right? Oh, they're getting divorced. There's trouble in paradise. And to me, I was just amazed that it's like she couldn't just not go because she didn't want to go. And that's where a lot of us are. And I love that example because she said, no, I do not want to do this. I prefer this, understanding that there are so many expectations of her, right? Because of who she is, because of who she's married to, because these ideas about what we feel like world leaders should do, shouldn't do. And she said, no, this doesn't work for me. And I think that speaks a lot to the relationship that she probably has with herself, which at the end of the day is the one we always have to contend with. It allows for radical honesty with yourself. So this inquiry, right, with what is it that I really feel? What is it that I really like? What is it that I really prefer? What do I really need in this particular moment, stage, or season of my life? And it allows you to get real with yourself. So many people go through life lying to themselves based on the shoulds. And I often tell my clients, a lot of times we are in relationship with people maybe who lie or who are dishonest. And of course, we take it personally, right? We're not able to develop trust in these relationships. But often people are dishonest. People lie because they lie and are dishonest with themselves first. They are communicating to you. They are telling you what they have told themselves. And so can you imagine, if you're not already there, what it might be like to be radically honest with yourself and what that might look like for the relationships in your life? It also allows you to develop trust in yourself, right? So going back to this example of honesty and trust in other relationships, It allows you to start to develop trust in yourself and cultivate that trust. I think it's also important to point out that it's a journey that continues to unfold throughout our life, right? So this relationship with ourselves is not necessarily like, oh, I'm there. I have a healthy relationship with myself. I've reached the goal. I got the gold star. No, it's something that needs to be tended to, just like any relationship. And it's something that shifts over time. And as we go through different seasons in our life, our needs shift. So using my own life as an example, last year I lost my father. And so in this season of my life, my needs and my relationship with myself, when it comes to meeting those needs, communicating those needs, being very honest with myself and the people in my life, it looks very different than it did before my father passed. My needs have shifted, and the way I meet those needs has shifted as well. And so going back to this point, that it also sets the foundation for other relationships in your life, because how you show up for yourself dictates how you show up in other relationships. There's this saying that we teach people how to treat us. And it's true, because people watch how we treat ourselves and they take notes on that. They take cues from that. Whether or not they do it consciously, they do. People treat us based on the example of how we treat ourselves. So when you think about the relationships in your life now, think about how you're treated and maybe think about what you have demonstrated to them about how to treat you. So thinking about why, especially in this context, I think the why is so important of having a healthy relationship with yourself. If you are somebody that is trying to create your own path in life and you're trying to thrive while you do it, it's so important to have a healthy relationship with yourself. You cannot get away from yourself when you are doing something on your own or doing it alone or doing it differently when you don't have the example or the blueprint. It's all on you. And it can be so difficult to know yourself and trust yourself, right? To be able to block out the noise, again, of what's just around you, what's in the media, what's on social media, what well-intentioned people may be saying or presenting to you about what you should do and how you should do this and what you should know and what actions you should be taking. And so when you understand yourself, when you know yourself, it allows you to take what you're being told or what's being presented to you and really sit with whether or not this works for you, this resonates for you, this is the right move for you. When you are a leader, when you are an entrepreneur, when you are taking this next step in your life to launch something, again, whether that's in a career, whether that's a business, whether that's in your personal life, engaging in a new relationship, leaving a relationship, you must do the work of being in relationship with yourself and understanding what that relationship looks like. And if possible, creating a healthy relationship with yourself in order for you to be able to achieve your desired result. The outer results are a manifestation of the inner work. And so before we end today, I wanted to leave you with suggestions for how to cultivate a healthy relationship with yourself. So the first thing I would suggest is becoming comfortable with being still and quiet. And this may sound simple, but this is quite a challenge for many people. We live in a very noisy world. We live in a world where we are constantly given messages that we need to be moving, we need to be doing, we need to be on to the next thing. And being still and being quiet can be scary for a lot of people because it feels like you can drown in what's going on inside of you. But I promise you, if you can start to tap into developing this ability to be still and be quiet, you'll see that it's a chance to listen, to notice. It's a chance to practice dropping the judgments and the stories you may have been told about yourself or you may have created for yourself. And it's not something where you have to do anything about those things in this moment. So whatever you're noticing, whatever you're hearing, your job is to witness and observe, not to fix, not to negotiate, not to change. But can you be still be quiet, and listen to yourself. The next step is to pay attention to what you notice in your body. What are your visceral reactions? So a lot of the work I do, especially in therapy, I use a lot of somatic practices, a lot of somatic experiencing, because it's so amazing what information our bodies hold and how often we bypass it. We are taught to be in our heads. Everything is a thought. Everything is I think this, or this is the story. This is the narrative, right? And so what's it like when you drop into your body and what your body is telling you or communicating to you? And so you can make a game out of this, actually. Practice checking in with yourself throughout the day. When you're in a meeting or you're in a conversation or you're engaging in a pleasant activity, right? Can you drop in and notice what's happening in your body in that moment? Again, you don't have to do anything about it. You don't have to fix it, but can you name it? Oh, I noticed my heart sped up. Oh, I noticed butterflies in my stomach. Oh, I noticed after this conversation, I had a headache. Again, getting still, noticing, and then maybe naming what you noticed. And then next, maybe doing that bird's eye view again. So number 3, doing the bird's eye view check-in. And you can make it a mini meditation if meditation is part of your wellness practice, right? If it's not, it's something you can take a moment, sit, stand, and think about. Noticing for a second, taking that bird's eye view, pulling out for a bit, and noticing how you treat yourself. Again, if you had to describe what you saw in your relationship with yourself to somebody else, what would you share? What do you notice? If you think about it, we notice how others interact with one another, right? So if you're somebody that likes to people watch and you see people with each other, we can often pick up a lot about a relationship just by how the individuals interact, right? Body language, expressions, tone of voice, body positioning, right? What's happening, what's not happening. And so, no, we don't know the whole story of somebody's relationship, but we can pick up on a lot of things. And so using that same idea when you think about how you engage with yourself. And then finally, number 4 is honoring what you notice. And this allows you to cultivate trust. Simply acknowledging what you notice is so powerful. When I give talks a lot about healthy communication in relationships, in workplace, things like that, I often talk about the power of acknowledgement. If you think about relationships that you are in, those people that acknowledge what you have said or acknowledge your experience, that goes so far. Even if that person doesn't have that experience, even if that person doesn't necessarily agree, but acknowledging somebody, and then in this context, acknowledging yourself can be so powerful. So I've talked before in some of the other episodes about how I teach yin yoga, right? And yin yoga is a different type of yoga in a lot of different ways, but one of the main ways is that you hold the poses for about 3 to 5 minutes. And so it requires you to be still. It requires you to get quiet. And then also it requires you to notice. So I go one step further when I teach yin. And when we're coming out of a pose, I invite, or shape as we call them in yin, I invite the people in the class to check in with themselves and see what movement their body needs or is craving in that moment. And then to do it, to honor it, to give it to themselves, right? And in this way, it's starting to hopefully teach people when they leave class, right? Or start to create a frame of reference or what we call a neural pathway in your mind of noticing and honoring. Because when we honor, we acknowledge. And so if you're noticing, if you're honoring, if you're acknowledging yourself, that starts to send a message to your subconscious mind that, oh, I can trust myself to be attuned to what it is I'm feeling. I can trust myself to notice it, and I can trust myself to honor it. I can trust what my experience is, and I can trust myself to address it if that's what's needed. And so, again, 1 is becoming comfortable with being still and quiet. 2 is paying attention to visceral reactions or what you notice in your body. 3, do the bird's eye view check-in. And 4, honor what you notice so that you can cultivate trust. I really hope this episode has been helpful for you, whether it's about taking yourself more seriously or checking in on the relationship, the healthy relationship that you already have or have been cultivating with yourself. Maybe you take time to notice where you've grown and maybe what you need that's different in this season. So I hope you subscribe and share if you like this episode. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.